mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready, go.
Provocative, engaging, and usually quite a lady.
Okay, they're asking for it.
Deborah, go.
MSNBC host Joy Reid. She's no longer with MSNBC. I don't know if she was fired. I don't know what happened. Show was canceled. Don't know. But what I do know is that all across social media, there are comments and posters talking about she was fired by MSNBC because they are racist. They picked Black History Month to fire her. There's a message behind that. I've seen others say that of all the places you would expect Joy Reid to be treated fairly would be MSNBC, but no. And then, of course, the firing of General Charles C.Q. Brown. The media outlets more than individuals have been talking about what's behind this. Trump is getting rid of all Black people, just ridiculous things. So this will be short, sweet, to the point. As far as Joy Reid is concerned, well, from what I've read, this is only what I've read, her ratings year over year have dropped by about 40%. She was in prime time. In prime time, that is a money slot, like in radio, morning drive, afternoon drive. In television, evening, 7 o'clock, if you're in Central, prime time. That's where they really can charge advertisers a good deal of money. So if Joy Reid's ratings have sank 40% over a year, to me that's a no-brainer. I don't care who it is. If your ratings have fallen that much and you've got a prime spot, you're either going to be shuffled around, put into a less prominent time slot, or you're going to be fired. Now, if Joy Reid comes out and says, MSNBC, they're racist, I endured harsh treatment, unfair treatment, blah, 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 then that's one thing. But I kind of think that won't happen. It's very possible that they offered her a lower profile spot, if you will, maybe the weekends, and she didn't take that. And I wouldn't blame her if it was offered for not taking that. But if she still had time on her contract, they bought her contract out, and they would have paid her very well. If she had no time remaining on her contract, which of course they wouldn't be renewing it if they didn't plan to keep her, chances are they gave her one heck of a nice severance package. Very sweet deal. So the proof will be in the pudding. If we hear Joy Reid come out whining and crying about how unfair things were, then she did not get compensated, at least not at the level that she would have liked. You know, it's one thing if you're upset about Joy Reid not being on television anymore because you were just a huge fan. That's one thing. But turning it into an argument about racism, I say you're off the mark. Don't cry for Joy Reid. Joy Reid is a big girl. Joy Reid knew full well what she was doing when she went on television every night and she went on her rants. It was part of her shtick. That's what she did. This fearless warrior, this fearless fighter, this I'm going to tell it like it is person, she knew what she was doing. And she had to see the nightly ratings, the weekly ratings. She had to know this. But for whatever reason, that was her call. Maybe it was her management. Maybe it was their call. Keep drumming this. Just keep doing what you're doing. That could be the case, but don't cry for her. She was well compensated to sit there and offer that drivel every night. The other part of this story is this. When we say we want equality, I have said this forever. I've raised my children with this idea. Equality cuts both ways. You can't say I want equality when you're just treating me in a special way because I've been mistreated in the past. So treat me in a special way. That's what I call equality. No. Equality cuts both ways. If she's got this job, and if the job is contingent upon healthy ratings, and if her ratings drop, significantly as being reported, then just like anybody else, she should be summarily fired. That's the way the business works. You can't be in a business and say, well, because I'm black or because I'm a woman, you've got to apply different rules to me. Treat me differently. Okay, so my ratings are in the toilet, but that's no reason to fire me. I'm black. No, equality cuts both ways. For all the hand-wringing, I don't see why people can't read the room. The room is telling us it's time to stop all of this foolishness. And goodness knows Joy Reid delivered foolishness. Always talking about race, racism, Donald Trump, and exaggerating, if not outright lying sometimes. So the room really has changed. And Americans are a lot more alert to not being propagandized as they were during Donald Trump's first term. And after experiencing Joe Biden, people want to pay closer attention now. Hoodwinked me once, shame on me. Hoodwinked me twice, shame on you. But it ain't going to happen again. So she's gone. He had to expect that to happen. As far as the general is concerned, General Brown, Donald Trump is not the first president to shake up the Pentagon. Not at all. Barack Obama did it. Joe Biden did it. I will tell you, they want people who are aligned with their plans going forth. And I was looking at an article, and it was just craziness because they all want to suggest that Donald Trump is doing this because General Brown is black. Not so. Again, this is just a real short, get it off my chest podcast. I'll do another one in a day or two, lengthier, but nothing to wring your hands about, nothing to whine and cry about, nothing to be alarmed about. Oh, I did want to add one other thing. I just thought about this too, speaking of firings. All of the federal workers who have been fired and the protests. That part I get. People are losing their jobs. People want to stand up. They want to fight for their jobs. Here's the problem. It's not their fault, but they are in a system that is so bloated. It's so bloated. It took someone like a Donald Trump along with an Elon Musk to say, enough. We have got to cut back. We have got to reduce the size of this government. And we really do. So if Donald Trump didn't do it, then we'd go on and it will just get bigger and bigger. And with our deficits that we're running right now, it's just a matter of time before we see things just crumble economically. And President Trump doesn't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen. You don't want it to happen. But if no one does anything, hey, it would happen. Now, there are some things that are at play also. Politics. And when we have Democrats that are standing outside chanting and singing songs from, I don't know, they sound like they're, 60s folk singers or protest singers. Just sounds outdated. Sounds weird. And then all the cursing. What does that do? It certainly doesn't make people feel, well, gosh, I understand the message now. It doesn't make people feel that way. It just makes people think, oh my God, I hate that happened to them, but it has to happen. Elon Musk, I read earlier today that he sent out an email and said that he wanted workers in a number of agencies, if not all, but certainly a number of agencies, to list 5 things that they accomplished last week and submit that list by end of day Monday, tomorrow. So I imagine that there will be some who will decide not to do that. And he's already said that if you don't respond, he's going to take that as a resignation. For some, that might be a Herculean task. Maybe they can't. Maybe they didn't do anything. But for others, sit down and just list the things you did last week. There's another aspect to this story. Some agency directors, such as Kash Patel, have instructed staffers to ignore that email and that the FBI will be conducting their own interviews. They'll determine who's doing an effective job, who's being productive, and who isn't. And they'll move from there. So it could be read as something of a clash. It could be read as Elon moving at lightning speed, trying to get as much done in terms of cutting fat. My take on it is that it's not a bad thing. Yeah, it's nothing wrong with asking people, what have you done? And I think that's extremely generous just to ask them, what about last week? He could have said, I'd like a list of what you've accomplished over the past year. Could have easily said that. He said, just the last week. Hey, I had a messy desk. I cleaned it up. My files were out of control. I organized them. I mean, who knows? But get those 5 things in an email and shoot them over to Elon. So we're at a point now where some people will have to be fired. It happens every day in America. It happens at companies large and small businesses, big businesses. When it's time to tighten the belt, you have to tighten the belt. The one thing nobody's talked about, at least I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but something that's just never sat right with me, and I never have understood this. Why are federal workers unionized? I don't understand that. Why are federal workers unionized? I can also take that to all government workers. Why are they unionized? It's our government that enforces the laws, like OSHA. So why do you need a union to protect a federal worker? Because if you really think about it, it pits the workers, the federal workers, against the taxpayers. Because you have the unions that are always going to fight for their members, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the people who wind up paying for all of that are the taxpayers. So if you're working in a federal job, and let's say you are a clerk and you're filing papers, and your union has demanded or negotiated that all clerks make no less than, $20 an hour. But when you get into the private sector, you find that clerks on average make $14 an hour. That's not right, because really it's unfair to the taxpayer. We don't need federal workers unionized. I never believed in that. I don't feel we need state workers unionized. We don't need city workers unionized, county workers unionized. If you work for the government, you work for the people, and your union is digging deeper into the taxpayers' pockets. So just another thought. All right, this is my fairly short podcast for today. Thanks so much for listening. And again, I do always encourage you to subscribe, download, share, like, follow, whatever you can do to help grow this podcast.
Under Project 2025, the Department of Justice would play the central role in executing their national policy of reversing racial progress. They would force the DOJ's Civil Rights Division